Back to Better is a complex theme to unpack, but I hope that by tomorrow afternoon, we understand that what we knew as normal in 2019 wasn't good enough, and that what we need starting now in 2021 must be influenced by deep conversations with our neighbors to hear what they think better is. My ask of the audience over the next 2 days is to be an active participant in these talks and take the things you hear into your work and into your home. Ask questions of colleagues, friends, and family. Engage in discussions about issues that we often find ourselves shying away from. We can only thrive together if we ensure everyone's voice is included in identifying existing problems and are a part of finding solutions. Getting to better won't be easy, but nothing worth doing ever is. To start us on our journey, I want to introduce our Congressman from Elk Grove, Dr. Bera, and Sacramento Mayor Darrell Steinberg, who are kicking off ISM 21 with our Back to Better Roundtable. To start the discussion, I'll ask you both, what does Back to Better mean to each of you? Congressman Bera, I know we only have you for a brief moment, so please begin when you're ready.
Absolutely. And again, thank you for the invitation. I want to make sure I bring a smile to Pat's face. You know, we've all learned how to adapt during the pandemic. And early on, anytime Darrell and I are on an Asian Chamber of Commerce event, we can think back to one of the early Zoom events that we did. And I'll let you guys ask Pat about that over the next 2 days. I could see Pat over there, and I brought a smile to her face. So I'm going to have to jump off shortly, but I wanted to make some brief comments because I want to thank the Asian Pacific Chamber for doing this, even though it's virtually. And the hope is next year we will be in person. I'm out here in Washington, D.C., and we're going to talk about equitable participation in our future. We have to build back better because, you know, while the Sacramento community on its surface is thriving, we also know that there are a lot of communities that are still struggling. And, you know, I was at the White House earlier this week with President Biden, with Vice President Harris, you know, making sure we could get the Build Back Better Act across the finish line here. And the reason why that is so important, even if we don't get everything that we were hoping for in the original bill, is it is about getting people into the workforce in an equitable way. You know, when you talk about providing childcare, that's about making sure there's full participation and gender equity. When you talk about funding home care, you know, so many women in this case have to come out of the workforce to care for a family member, care for someone who's ill. We want to provide that full equity. When you talk about, you know, early childhood education, you know, I'd love to see, you know, we may not get free community college, but we may, you know, we're blessed to live in California where we're a little bit ahead of the curve, but we may get more Pell Grants, et cetera, to make sure communities of color and other communities have the skill set to fully participate. So, you know, this is a success, even in a slimmed down version of it. And that doesn't mean we're not going to continue to fight for additional and expanded child tax credits. You know, even what we passed in the American Rescue Plan has lifted so many children out of poverty and will have huge impact. So, you know, our work's not done. It's a busy time here in Washington, D.C. You know, the president will go out there on a town hall this evening to you know, make sure the American public understands why this is such an important jobs and equity bill. And then, you know, if we're smart about this, and I know we are in the Sacramento region, we will take full advantage of the resources that become available to us, certainly building the infrastructure that, as I've said in the past, you know, I think that Sacramento can be the center of the 21st century economy, not just in California, but in the 21st century. Our region really is poised to take off. And as we take off, let's make sure everybody is with us and everybody, you know, thrives both throughout all the various communities. So again, Pat, I did make you smile there. I'll have folks ask you about that early event. And I know I saw Darrell chuckle a little bit as well. But yeah, we've gone through a tough year and a half together as a community. Hopefully it's made us more strong, more resilient. And as we come out that we're kinder, gentler, and more inclusive. And I think our future is going to be bright. So thank you. My apologies about having to drop off. I know Mayor Steinberg's, more than equipped to take it from here and talk about what that future looks like. So thank you, everyone. Be well.
Thank you, Congressman. Mayor Steinberg, I'll ask you the same question. What does a title like Back to Better mean to you? And for those in the virtual audience, please use the Q&A Zoom function if you have a question for the mayor.
Well, thank you, Orville, very, very much. Thank you, Pat. Thank you to the Asian Chamber. And thank you to all the participants. Again, I wish we were all together in person, but we are making the best of it, as we always do. And thank you to Congressman Bera. I can't think of any more important work than helping this president and this country get the Build Back Better agenda across the finish line, which will have direct positive economic benefits to our community. What does Back to Better mean for me? I will answer it this way. We have no control in life most of the time about what comes at us. We do have a choice around how we respond, how we lead, and how we use whatever comes towards us in a way that improves the human condition. And for me, Build Back Better in our region means that we are not only going to regain the momentum that we had in this region economically prior to the pandemic, but we are going to go well beyond even where we once expected and hoped to go. This is a time of real crisis and difficulty for people, for families, for small businesses. It's also an incredible time of opportunity. And look I would trade any of what I'm about to describe to have not experienced as a community, as a country, the pandemic with hundreds of thousands of deaths and so much suffering. But in Sacramento, we were embarking pre-pandemic on what we call our inclusive economic development agenda. And these aren't just words. The arc of the city, and I think in the region in many ways has changed over the last 5, 6, 7 years. The way that I say it is that for the city, we once defined our core priorities exclusively as a city government as providing basic services to the people. And that is still, of course, our priority. What's happened over the last half dozen years is that the city is expanding on what it considers to be a core priority to include direct investments in building back better, in small business, in workforce development, in youth, in affordable housing, in investing in our commercial corridors, in all of our commercial corridors, in investing in our community-based organizations like the Asian Chamber that are on the front lines of helping our small businesses and our residents. And every single time, as a result of the pandemic, we have had tens of millions of dollars at our disposal to be able to invest in our communities under that umbrella and definition. That's exactly what we have done. And so Build Back to Better, or Build Back Better, means that we are going to use this crisis and frankly, the tens of millions of dollars of resources that come with it. And we are going to use that to fuel the growth and the expansion that was already our path prior to the pandemic.
Mayor, I'm glad you started talking about where Sacramento was earlier. In this time of hyper polarization and some contentious times when it comes to government, how do you and your partners at the council level work to build consensus on things like equity, inclusivity, terms that, I don't think there is a solid meaning or agreed upon definition yet?
By constantly demonstrating through our decisions, both fiscal and budget decisions, but also policy decisions, that we are committed to equity and that we're going to back it up with real dollars and real action. And that's how you do it. You don't say it, although no, I take that back. You do say it and you mean it, but then you back it up with real action. And you also acknowledge that it is not just a single action and that we haven't solved anything. We are just moving the arc of the city in an intentional way to make equity and economic growth cornerstones of what our city is about. And again, for those who are new to the community life here in some way, that was not always the case. What we are doing now in the city is not what cities have always done. It started before me with, the debate and discussion about whether the city should invest money in the Golden One Center and the downtown arena. It was sort of around larger projects. And accompanying those large projects like the Golden One Center was a community benefits agreement to make sure that workers from disadvantaged communities benefited. But we are now much broader than that. It's not just about a single project. It's really about sustained investment, sustained commitment, and to redefine what a city's responsibility is supposed to be. It means investing in its people. It means investing in its small businesses. It means doing our part with the private sector to expand economic opportunity for everyone, especially people in communities that have been traditionally disadvantaged because of redlining or other overt and implicit acts of discrimination.
When I walk around the capital city now, we see a brand new convention center, a new community theater. We've all experienced the traffic of infrastructure work on our major freeways. As one of the leaders in the region, how does some of this physical progress match some of the things that are going on in our smaller communities or that our groups are starting to lead?
I'm not sure I completely understand the question. In other words, well, maybe I'll interpret it and you tell me if I've got it right. The big projects are crucial and the central city is crucial because those projects draw people to the city. The amount of happiness and joy and economic benefit that occurred because Hamilton chose Sacramento as one of its 5 cities to debut post-pandemic was a big deal. Just as attracting now more conventions, just as the Golden One Center opening again, not just for Kings games, they're undefeated, by the way, and for all else, because there are big deals. But I think the mindset here in our city is that while building a central city is important, it's not enough. And investing in the major big projects is vital, but it's not sufficient. Equal attention must be paid to the commercial corridors outside of our central city. Equal attention must be paid to our growing diverse artists who are struggling to make it. Equal attention must be paid to small businesses that struggled before the pandemic and are struggling even more. Equal attention must be paid to infrastructure in our commercial corridors so that we beautify them and make them more attractive places for destination. It's not enough to just address the social condition and the homeless problem in the central city because it's occurring elsewhere in the city and affecting the ability of some of our traditionally disadvantaged communities to be able to elevate their opportunities for people. And so the examples that you cite are really great and important, but the philosophy and the direction is about more than signature projects. It's about diversity geographically, and it's also about small business. It's about workforce for our kids in high school and community college. It's about people.
Great answer, and I'm glad you were able to interpret my
I
question.
hope I interpreted it correctly.
You did.
Go ahead.
Question from the audience. Being a prognosticator, 1 year from now, how do we know if we are building back better and if what we're trying to do is working?
Well, I certainly hope that the $61 million that the council approved on Tuesday out of the American Rescue Plan makes a real difference over the course of the next 12 months in terms of improving the safety, the cleanliness of our business corridors, in creating more placemaking and more lighting and security, and making all of our corridors more welcoming for people who live in and around there, but also people who want to come downtown or to Stockton Boulevard or to Del Paso Boulevard or to Northgate Boulevard. I guess, I'm a big believer in, you know it when you see it in a way. Take homelessness, for example, the social condition. I don't expect, and I think it would be unrealistic to say that we're going to cure that problem. But a year from now, I want the community to feel that it's better, because it is better, because there are fewer people on the streets, because we are bringing people from tent encampments into better and safer places. That's what I want. I want people to see and feel the progress. I feel like in my tenure as mayor, we've had some signature achievements, certainly, but man, it's a lot of foundation laying. And I want that foundation now to actually deliver results where people feel like, oh, okay, it's better. And I think that's what's going to happen over the next 12 months, in part because of the foundation that we have all laid together.
What about the advocacy that Congressman Bera is doing? What would a potential infrastructure bill and a human infrastructure bill like a reconciliation mean for our region?
Well, I will tell you, first of all, that the ARP money, the American Rescue Plan money, the CARES Act money, which is the coronavirus relief money, the state money, because of their record surpluses, I tell them all I'm jealous and envious that those legislators that get to serve when they're big surpluses. Because when I served in lead, we dealt with deficits, but actually very happy for them and for the state. Those dollars have made a tremendous difference to our business community. It's enabled us to fund our Inclusive Economic Development Coalition, and also put money directly into the hands of the struggling small businesses and workers, and the myriad of things that we have done. And so if we are the beneficiaries of some portion of $3+ trillion worth of investment, I don't know exactly, because they haven't decided yet how the formula is going to work, but it will undoubtedly have a direct positive impact on our city and on our region, because it will mean more investment that we can put to work in partnership with you and with our larger community.
A question from some of our staff that's been working on this ISM is that we've asked people about 3 words that describe their last year. Would you entertain us with 3 words that you could think described your last year?
Challenging, heartbreaking, and satisfying, which maybe is back to better, because we have to acknowledge that this has been a profound and in many ways negative chapter for the entire world. How can it not be? 700,000 people or more die in this country, and many in our county or region, people getting sick, lost businesses, the mental health crisis for people, including, especially our young people. I mean, this is, no one wants to ever say that this was good. It was not. It was terrible. And yet, as with any difficult or terrible chapter of life, there are so many sweet things that occur, and so much inspiration, and so much hope, and so much resiliency, and so much of what's possible. And I've seen so much of that, and been able to be in a place, in a position where I can help encourage that and facilitate in some ways that. And we always have to maintain hope. We have to, because there are people that are counting on all of us. They're counting on us. They're counting on me. They're counting on you. They're counting on Pat. They're counting on all of the leaders here that are participating in the 2-day internal study mission to show up, do their best, and make it better. And that's what we have to do. And so not a Pollyanna. This has been a very difficult time and a tragic time. But see the good, see the hope, and commit ourselves together to building the city and the region that we all want, that is prosperous, and that includes everybody, and that reckons with great injustices of the past.
Mayor Steinberg, thank you. Thank you so much for giving us that last little bit of hope, and for taking time today
Always
to be part of us.
I look forward to seeing all of you, and thank you for having that hope and for being leaders. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.